Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I wanted to talk a little bit about the short interview, the screening interview, and how to succeed at that. I wrote an hour-long book on it called Phone Interview Survival. It's bundled with the 100-strong residency interview questions, answers, and rationales that I did with TLDR Pharmacy's Brandon Dyson. So I pick it up on Amazon as an audiobook if you're pressed for time and just driving to work, or I think there's an ebook available as well, and then a print book. But what I wanted to get into tonight was how to succeed in a short screening interview. And operationally, the most important thing that you need to do is know how many questions you're going to have and how much time you have per question. So if they're scoring you on 5 questions, which it's usually 4 or 5 questions, in 15 to 20 minutes, then you need to know how much time you have. You don't want to go way short where you have this awkward silence. You go on to the next one, unless you're kind of banking some of that time. And you don't want to go way long, because if you only answer 2 or 3 of the 5 questions, then they can only score you on 2 or 3 of the 5 questions. And that would also be bad. So there was a Redditor that put in a couple of the questions they got, and I'll talk about Reddit and why it's great and why it's terrible when it comes to getting residency advice. So let me go in and talk about these 5 questions and give you some kind of context on how to answer them. So why did you apply to this program? Well, if you did what I've recommended over and over again, is you've gone to you can just go to your letter of intent, and your letter of intent includes those things that are unique to the program, and you can just kind of check off the boxes. It should be 3 to 5 things that are specifically unique about that program and the reason that you applied to that program. Now, what you want to do is you want to frame it in such a way that you're talking in such a way that this is the number 1 program. And to apply to the other programs, you did it because you want a residency, and there's no guarantees. But the other programs have a couple of trade-offs that you had to make. But this was the program that checked all the boxes. So where you're going to get in trouble is if you just copied off that UCSF letter, and then you're going to go back to your letter and you're going to say, well, I of course wanted to apply to your program because it offers experiences that I look for in a PGY1. It has a variety of rotations, teaching, research, community outreach, and a challenging yet supportive environment to refine my skills as a clinical pharmacist. And, it of course has a variety of rotation opportunities along with strong faculty mentorship, offering a balance of support and autonomy, right? And so if you did that kind of generic LOI, then you're going back to it and you realize that you never actually told them the real reason. So you need to fill that in. And the easiest thing to do is just ask yourself, why did it apply to this program over the other programs that are available? What sets you apart from the other candidates? So this is where you want to use the humble brag, which is you want to talk about those things that you've done well at that other people probably haven't. If you've got any positions, presidential positions, especially if you're on the national level in anything. But what you really can do, which has little to do with the pinnacle that you've reached in your leadership or whatever it is to talk about how connected you are to the actual program already. And so if you've done an APPE with them or an LAPP with them, then that sets you apart, because if you've got a couple hundred applications, maybe a couple dozen people did their APPE there, and you have a relationship with 1 or 2 people there. That's really what you want to get to. What I see is that students are going to try saying, well, this is what sets me apart, and try to score high with their accomplishments. But there's always going to be somebody that did better and someone that did more than you. And what you want to do really is create something that's memorable, something that's unique, but trying to win the qualification race is maybe not the best way to go. Situational question in the interview course, residency.teachable.com/p/interview. I talk about exactly how to answer a situational question, and those situational questions should be answered with the mnemonic and it's that STAR, situation, task, action, result, and that's how you should do it. So it might be he, might be she. The person was writing about the impact and working with underserved populations, but did I spell it wrong? It says undeserved. Maybe I just copied it wrong. But all right, whatever it is, I'm sure he meant she meant underserved populations. And what you really want to do, so how would you do that? Task, action, or situation, task, action, and result. So you want to frame the situation, take some time to put them there, make sure that they know where the setting is. Then what is the task? What was something you wanted to do or needed to do? And make sure that you have some level of conflict in the story. That is, you want to have overcome an obstacle in some way or another. Then the action that you took to overcome that obstacle. And then the result and how things are better now. But what most people miss on the situation question is that result should flow right into, and this result matters because. And so if the situational question was about some work that you'd done as an intern, then the result could be, so when I'm staffing, this could be impactful. And this person was talking about underserved populations. So if it's an AmCare rotation in some clinic where there's a different language and they speak the language or something like that, that would be good. But always bring it back to them. So the misconception is that this is about you, and it's really not. It's about them and matching to you. And if you will make sure, why did you apply to the program? Well, these are the reasons about you. What sets you apart from other candidates? Well, these are my qualifications, but this is why I fit with you, because I've been here with an APPE and I have relationships. I know the EHR. Situational question, again, of course, the situation, the task, the action, and the result, but this result is important because blank will help, the hospital or whatever it is. What rotation sites are you interested in at the program? And this is where you can really kind of shine by doing something a little bit extra. So certainly you could answer the rotation sites in the PGY1, but you could also kind of look forward to the future. And what would be really impressive is if you start throwing out some PGY2 rotations. Saying, I wanted to do PGY2, I definitely wanted early commit, and the two of the rotations I would absolutely love to do as a PGY2 are blank and blank. And the PGY2 is actually a lot nicer because in PGY1 you're kind of like appies, where you're doing a lot of things that maybe you don't want to do, and where the PGY2 is mostly stuff you do want to do in your specialty and getting better at your specialty. But making sure to add some evidence as to what rotation sites you're interested in the program. I think cardiology is going to be cool and critical care is going to be cool. And what I keep seeing is, at least in the letters, that people are putting, well, I want to explore that area, or that's an area where I don't have a lot of strength. Well, you don't really want to say that during the interview. What you want to do is you want to talk about those places that are interesting to you, but that you also have a connection and also have the background in. So I would stick to those rotations that you had appies in or work experience in. And I would stay away from the exploratory. You don't want to sound wishy-washy. You make sure you have a PGY2 that if somebody put, you have to answer, this is the PGY2. Well, then pick one, whether it's I keep seeing over and over again, I would do critical care or cardiology or whatever. And you really want to just pick one so that you seem focused, you seem direct. Cardiology is definitely my primary, what I would be thinking about. I did a rotation in acute care with cardiology, and then I've also done ambulatory care with Coumadin Clinic, things like that. And the last thing, what are your career goals? And PGY2 is not a career goal. PGY2 is a milestone. It's a place on the way to a career. When you're talking about careers, you want to be very careful here. And you could talk your way out of this job, which is, I definitely want to work in an academic medical center. Right. So we're a regional rural hospital with no ties to a pharmacy school, And so what you want to do with your career goals is you want to make clear whom you want to serve and to make that a unique population. So don't just say I want to help people, or I want to work at the top of my license. Ugh, hate that expression. Or, I want to be an RPD just like you. My career goal really is to help the underserved who may not speak English. And my father's an immigrant, and that's, kind of a big part of my life, and it brings me a lot of joy when I help, a population that is currently trying to improve themselves and, trying to improve the situation for their family. I remember my dad just working night and day to get us from one house to another, and I think the mortgage was like $250 a month. It's, in the 70s. And it absolutely was breaking them. They couldn't put curtains on the windows. They had sheets up. It was just, and he did everything an immigrant, could possibly do to advance us, as a family. And when you're looking at your career goals, you definitely want to focus very, very intently on a specific group that's also supported by your, goals. So whether it's peds, don't just say kids. So specifically, what kids, or NICU or PICU or whatever, and then make sure to tie it to some story or to something in your life that says, okay, well, this makes sense. You've been doing this, and you have clear career goals. What they really want to know, and what they're really looking for, is clarity. Are you clear on why you applied to this program? And again, pulling that old UCSF letter of intent rabbit out of your hat is not going to do it. What sets you apart from other candidates? Again, connections are much more important than accomplishments. Situational question, just again, keep that STAR part in mind: the situation, task, and action and result. And then what rotation sites, be very specific and try to put some PGY2s in there to show that you're in it for the long haul. And then what are your career goals? Make sure to be very specific about the groups that you would love to help, and definitely make it a servant leader rather than make big coin after I graduate or whatever it is. So let's talk a little bit about Reddit. And again, those answers were from Reddit. The book, I talk about the phone interview for an hour. There's kind of a lot to it. But let's start with the biggest risk with Reddit pharmacy residency advice, and that's confirmation bias. So when you go on Reddit and you're looking for an answer, it depends on the type of question you're asking. If you're asking an informational question, that's fine. Do what you need to do and you'll get that. But when you're asking for an opinion, and there are some amazing mods and there are some amazing Redditors in there that are, literally giving gold advice. Like they might as well just give you, a stack of cash. Their advice is so good. And there you go, and you completely ignore it. 9 people saying the exact same thing, telling you exactly what to do, exactly what to avoid. And you look at the one person who agrees with you. And so that's confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when you have an opinion and you're looking and you're looking and you're looking, and you see that someone agrees with you. And I'll actually look up the real definition just so I get it right in such a way that I can articulate it better. So it's the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of your existing belief. So if you believe already that you should apply to one of the top residency sites in the country that's getting 400 to 500 applications, and that you have an opportunity to do it, you put it up on Reddit and you say, what are my chances? And 20 people say, oh, that's not looking good. And then the one person says, oh, I got an interview from him. I think you can too. Okay. We see this with pre-pharmacy all the time, where people come on and they say, hey, should I go to pharmacy school? and 9 people saying no, 1 or 2 people defending the cause and saying no, you should go. But you have no idea, are those people that got out 25 years ago when the pharmacy was super hot and getting BMWs and all that stuff, or is it somebody that just graduated? And so the biggest risk is that you don't look at the numbers. You don't look at who, and you may not know the Redditors. And there are some that are just absolute rock stars, and anything they say, just like that, they are spot on. Absolutely great evidence, respectful discussion, all that stuff. And the mods keep it that way. The mods do a great job of keeping it that way. But the other real big issue with the pharmacy residency Reddit is how tiny it is. So to give you some perspective, the medical school residency is 83,000 members. And, any given time you could have, 1,000 online. And that's going to probably be a smaller percentage than on the pharmacy residency Reddit. But pharmacy residency Reddit has 6,000 members. So 83,000 to 6,000. And maybe on any given time, 150, 200 are on, which is about 3 or 4%. So while the pharmacy Reddit has 3 times as many people on at any given time, and you're going to get answers to your questions, it's very tiny relative to the medical school residency. What's even tinier and kind of just absolutely just devastating is that the medical school Reddit is 308,000 people. At any given time, you can have 1,000 to 2,000 people online. Now, that's only 0.5% of that 300,000, but that is a ton of people and a ton of advice. The pharmacy school Reddit is around 5,000. So 5,000 to 308,000. And at any given time, maybe 20 to 40 people are online. And that's not to say that they can't give you good advice, but our numbers relative to med school are absolutely tiny. The bigger problem is the lack of a name and shame. So for those of you who don't know what that is, a name and shame is something that comes out usually, I think, in March with the medical school Reddit. And I think there were 1,500 upvotes or 2,000 upvotes, something like that. What they basically do is they talk any residency that is abusive. And there was recently a Reddit about a residency in the state of Utah that they kind of demolished. But that is very few and far between. Even in the comments in some of these Reddits, you can see, oh, yeah, I would tell you that this sucks, but I'm not going to, because there are 4 residents and they pretty much would know who it is. So you can't, it's a perpetuating cycle. So if you have no information about which are the worst, you're going to be working 12 too. For those of you who don't know what that is, that means you work 12 on and then 2 off. So it's basically when you work every other weekend and you work Monday through Friday, that works out to 12 days on and 2 days off. But that 12 days on and 2 days off is very different for some people and other people. Some places are absolutely abusive in their use of residents, and they could care less what you do or don't want to do. And other places are very respectful. And is there a percentage? I can't give you a percentage. But what I can tell you is that you are in the dark. Unless one of the residents actually approaches you or is very clear with you about that, you have no idea. And you've got to kind of pick up on it. And I think that some people are very good with their intuition. I would probably miss it. But many people are good with their intuition. And if something in your intuition says, gosh, something just did not feel right, well, I would go with your gut on that one. But unfortunately, there is no name and shame. It's called name and shame, which is to name the site, shame them, for whatever it was that they did that was abusive or things like that. I don't know if they still do this, but I think at Harvard Law they used to hiss Like if the professor said something and just kind of slammed a student, then you would get this kind of hissing to show their disapproval. And we really have nothing in here to alert anyone to pharmacy residency, abuses and things like that. And that when you have this kind of rapid expansion, 300 to 400 sites a year, that we're going to have a lot of things going on that maybe we would like to know about. And we would like to know that, okay, so the site opened up, wasn't the best experience. But we really are blind to that. I think there's something called InPill, which is a site that has, I think, 250 or something like that, which is, about 10% of the residencies in there. But other than that, and that InPill, you have to get into it. It takes like 3 or 4 weeks before they'll give you your code to get in with the password or whatever. But that is the only place that I've seen. Someone tried to put up a Google Doc on Reddit, and it is blank, that talked about the negatives and the positives. No one will tell you if it's a bad site or not, unless you have someone that just is really nice and like, look, man, you do not want to go here. And we don't have that. And that's kind of a shame. So to the Redditors, hopefully you will find a way to make it in such a way that you can protect those students that are going in and from what could be an absolutely terrible year. All right, so I kind of got off with the Reddit thing, but in terms of the questions and answering, when you're in the screening interview, again, you want to make sure that you bring your energy, that you apply specific evidence through stories and through experiences, and that you are just honest with them and just like, this is why I applied. Don't try to guess why they want you to apply, but just tell them, hey, you know what? I went to school 15 miles from here, and I just love being here and being in this area. I went to this hospital and I was so happy with the rotation, really enjoyed it, and just kind of want to move on and stay here. So there's nothing wrong with that. So honesty, energy, that'll get you through. Anyway, if you want my help one-on-one with the residency interview process, residency.teachable.com/p/interview. I'm helping a couple dozen people right now, and it's really fun for me to kind of live vicariously through them and their successes, and to hear about the interviews. But on the flip side, some of them are from schools where the rate is a little bit lower than we'd like in terms of earning acceptance, and so I'm excited that many of them have multiple interviews and multiple chances to find their match. So anyway, all right, you guys have a good night, and good luck with these shorter screening interviews. And again, if you want to reach me, TonyThePharmacist@gmail.com.